What's up, everybody, and welcome to a Thursday edition of Morning Cuppa Hockey presented by Bet365. Check out Bet365's 3-goal early payout. When your team goes up 3, you get paid. It's that simple. Download the app today, and you must be 19. Plus, please play responsibly. And we're also presented by Russo, the most complete choice for shaving and beard care. Made in Italy since 1948. Russo has been a staple of Italian culture and barbershops globally for 4 generations. So get 15% off at Russo-USA.com with our promo code Hockey15 in all caps. Hockey15. That's Colby, Cohen. I'm Jonny, Lazarus. We got Michael Russo joining right now, so we're not going to waste any time. We're going to bring him in. We're going to have him on for about 15 minutes here, maybe 14 minutes, and hear about all the GM meetings. So, Russo, thanks so much for taking the time this morning and joining us. And the first question I want to ask you, I actually just got a tweet from JWBS, a big Carolina Hurricanes fan, and he wants to know, and I want to know, and I think a lot of people want to know, about Eric Tulsky going to bat for the players. It seemed like that was a big part of the story that you wrote yesterday for The Athletic, and just kind of wondering if you can dive deeper into that.
Yeah. I mean, that was a double byline story with Pierre, and that was a lot of Pierre's reporting. But Eric Tulsky, I think during a conversation with the league on Rule 48, which is headshots, I think took issue with the belief out there that there's could be unavoidable headshots. There's a belief inside the league that if you're 6'6" and you're hitting Matt Zuccarello, that there's just no offense to Zuki. There's no, that you're going to have some headshot at times. And I think that Eric, if he wants to, could speak for himself. I think Dick just took issue and felt like the standard is slipping a little bit here. And Gary Bettman, spouted back at him. I don't think it was like a screaming match. First of all, I can't even imagine Eric doing that. Eric is so level-headed and measured in everything that he says. And it was on, the way it works in those meetings is you essentially raise your hand and you turn on your mic. And I don't think there was any yelling back and forth, but I think Gary basically said to him, he was alluding that it was Tom Dundon. He basically said, we all know why you're bringing this up. So that was it. And then he also kind of joined in when Pat Verbeek, I think there is a real belief out there that the standard on goalie interference is slipping. Last year, they brought all of us into that meeting hall where the GMs meet and showed us the same videos that the GM saw on goalie interference. And, I think Colby could probably speak to this a little bit, being the position that he used to play. But I do think that, what they showed us was that if you go into the crease on your own volition and make contact with the goalie, that's on you and that the goal is going to be disallowed. And all of a sudden you had that incident the other day with Stützle going into the crease against Anaheim. And I think there's a belief there that now the league is deciding whether or not a goalie could have made the save with that contact and allowed the goal. And I think there's a lot of people that felt that goal should have been disallowed.
How often does it get contentious with Gary Bettman in these meetings? Is this and I am glad that you're sort of clarifying this a little, because like when I read it, I'm sitting there thinking like, ooh, soap opera, like screaming match amongst the GMs. And I kind of thought the same thing, like, God, Eric Tulsky does not seem like the likely candidate to do that. Although, listen, he has surprised me in all good ways since he's become a general manager. So you never know. But it does strike me as, look, a lot of big egos, a lot of strong-willed, opinionated people. You put them all in a room, you're going to have disagreements. But I don't know, like it just feels like they're all usually on the same team in a way, other than during suspension time. So is it normal to have sort of things come out of the meeting where, again, maybe they weren't yelling at each other, but there's some discomfort, I would say, between GMs and between the commissioner of the National Hockey League, who's been there forever?
Yeah, I mean, it is funny because Gary, he could be intimidating, and a lot of these GMs don't want to go up against him. And so I think it says something that Eric was willing to at least speak his mind there and go to bat for NHL players as a whole and probably his own players on his team. But I don't think it gets to be shouting matches very often. I do think Pat Verbeek was the one that was probably the most testy when it came to what happened last week in the Ottawa game. But I think what it does speak to is that Eric Tulsky is confident in his own beliefs and his own skin. For a youngish GM to stand up for himself and the league and players as a whole, and an issue that he sees that is something that Gary, especially headshots, is very sensitive to. I think it says a lot about his confidence level, because even the most vocal, opinionated GMs a lot of times don't speak up in those meetings because they feel like it's sort of fruitless. Gary runs the show. There's no doubt about it. Everybody knows it. Even with the owners, which I'm always fascinated by, because technically they're his boss, and yet, it's really the most to me, it's one of the most fascinating dynamics in all of sports, when the commissioner, who is essentially hired by the owners, is essentially finding these guys and all that stuff. And the playoff format is one that is a perfect example. Like, the fact that the owners don't button up, to me, what is an obvious issue that all fans and most teams don't agree with, says everything. I mean, Gary is literally the lone voice on this, and he's deciding something that is costing teams money, in my opinion.
Well, I will say, I know the conversation was how, like, Gary wants the NHL to have the best first round, and I kind of agree that we do. Like, we do have the best first round out of the NBA. I think a lot of them result in a sweep. The MLB, it's like a best of 3 in the wild card round. Football, football's football. Football will always be a great first round no matter what. But hockey, like, the first round, you do get game 6s, game 7s, and you get a lot of them some years. So it is great. But on the other hand, like, I don't want it. I'm sure you don't want it, especially this year, Roos, with how good Minnesota is. And honestly, the whole point was to create more rivalries. But now, like, I'm looking at the Rangers and Devils. They didn't play for the first time until 2 weeks ago this season. And I feel like, 10 years ago, those in divisional rivals used to play each other 6 times in the regular season. That's where it should be built up.
I am so tired of the rivalry BS. I mean, for that rationale, then the U.S. and Canada should have met in the quarterfinals at the Olympics. I mean, that's insane. It's completely dumb. And this whole thing, like, first of all, I think no matter what, to your point on the NBA, in the NHL, I think that you be careful what you wish for. I mean, just because Minnesota might play Utah in the first round, whatever it would be, doesn't mean anything. Utah, has shown they could beat Minnesota, but the point is that anybody in this league can beat anybody on any given night. But to go through an 82 game season where most teams have the exact same schedule, I mean, you're inside a division right now where there's some teams you're playing 3 times and some teams you're playing 4, which is the exact number of games you're playing on the other side of your conference. So everybody's playing the same schedule. This isn't like when I started to cover this league in the 90s, where you played 6-8 times inside your division. So the division format makes no sense to me. It's money. They have analytics that show them that most eyeballs are on the league in the first rounds of the playoffs. At The Athletic, I see that in my numbers. As the playoffs go on and on, we get less and less reads because for some reason NHL fans are extremely provincial. They want to read and care about their team. They don't care about others. So even in the conference final and the Stanley Cup final, they're not paying attention. But I think to have a format that you go through an 82 and soon 84 game schedule that essentially does mean nothing, because now the three of the top 5 teams in the league are going to be out after 2 rounds. That should piss off Craig Leopold and the Colorado owner and the Dallas owner. That really should. It's to me ridiculous that the Utah Mammoth will have an easier path to the Stanley Cup final by playing some of these. The Pacific has just been bad this year. Yeah. So you can say it's an aberration and every year is different, but the reality is that this format has allowed for this likelihood. And we've seen it coming. And Utah, by the way, is on the rise. So this is just going to continue to be a thing in the Central Division. So and the fans seem to hate it. I could tell you when I talk to GMs and coaches and players off the record, they hate it. Yeah. I think people in the league hate it, but Gary loves it because he sees. But, like, to me, from somebody that covers all 4 rounds of the playoffs for The Athletic, the fact that the conference finals every single year since, like, this format came into play in like round 13 that are pretty much end in 5 or 6 games tells you that right now these I mean, I covered Carolina, Florida. It was a sweep a couple years. Yeah. To me, it doesn't make sense that you want your best rounds always in the first round, but yet the most non-competitive rounds, because the good teams are out, are in the second and third rounds. It just makes no sense. The point of winning a Stanley Cup should be the best team has the opportunity to win the cup. And this format doesn't allow that.
I there's nothing you said that isn't 100% true. And you went to where I was going to go with you. And I was just going to say, without having any access to whatever those numbers and analytics look like as far as revenue generation, that's what this is clearly about. And you touched on it. At the end of the day, Gary Bettman will always go back to the owners and say, yes, but look at the money that we're making. And that's going to be the sword that he falls on. And we've seen Gary Bettman in his history not afraid to double down, triple down, quadruple down on things that everybody else hates. And in one sense, it's made him very successful. In one sense, it's made him very disliked and very unpopular. But, at the end of the day, in order for this to have happened, someone had to agree on it somewhere. Remember that.
Yeah.
Like the players had to agree on it. The owners and the GMs had to agree on it. So I'm on the side with you guys of I hate the playoff format, but the dollars and cents clearly make sense. Mm-hmm. And some people had to say okay to this for this to be in. And I just want to be fair. And I want to.
We see it too, Colby, with our show. We see it too with our show. Like after the first round, it kind of dies
absolutely.
down. Yeah.
But I also think that as long as you have 16 teams in it, I think those fans are going to pay attention no matter who you're playing.
True.
So I think you could have a format of 1 through 8 and ensure that those teams are going to be, it's going to be that same way in any format where the eyeballs become less and less. And look, I am one of the people. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that call me a Gary Bettman apologist. I actually genuinely like him. I think for the most part, he makes sense. But the one thing that you said, Colby, that is true is that, he is stubborn. And if he has a belief system, he's not going to change his mind. And this has been his position on this format for as long as I can remember. And even if it makes sense from a competitive point of view to change it, this is what he's dug in on. And I think that in his eyes, the more eyeballs and the money that you're making, whatever the analytics say on the first round is more important to him than Minnesota being out after the first round again, even though they had, the third most points maybe in the NHL. And so, I appreciate Bill Guerin. And I know a lot of fans are saying, well, Bill Guerin's just saying this because it affects him. Bill's been saying this for years. And the reality is what he's saying, and Bill is, he says, be careful what you wish for. That you could lose to anybody. But what he says is that you just should not have the second best team in the league playing the third best team.
100%. Yeah. No one can disagree with that. Yeah.
Bruce, before we let you go, there's one other topic I wanted to ask you about. And I think it sort of ties into yesterday with, Bob Motzko and Minnesota parting ways. And the discussion at the GM meetings about the 19-year-old players playing in the American Hockey League. And why I connect that to the Minnesota thing is that obviously the new paths for these players, they can play major junior, they can go to college. We had huge news yesterday, like we said, with Motzko. A lot of the criticism on him was that he didn't really want to dip into the major junior pile of players, which I'm not sure I disagree with him on that, by the way. But what did you hear yesterday from the GM meetings about this whole 19-year-old rule? Because it sounds like they're already changing their mind on it based on the feedback that they're getting, and they're going to maybe allow more 19-year-olds play in the American Hockey League.
Yeah, that's what Coley Campbell said, that basically it comes down to how many, 1, 2, 3. It's not going to be like 6 or 7. And a criteria. Is it just first round picks? Is it first to fourth round picks? Bill Daly was meeting with Dan McKenzie, the president of the CHL yesterday, and the other CHL commissioners, OHL, Quebec League, and obviously Western League, to kind of go through this. And I think they're going to have a decision soon. But to your point on Bob, look, he was going to probably retire in a year anyway. That's why I'm a little surprised at the timing. But the one thing that's happening in college is you need a GM. And this is, the one thing I think the University of Minnesota got lost on this year. and maybe because it is, at Bob's age and he just didn't want to do it, is they lost out on a lot of these Canadian kids coming down here. They only had, I think, one. And I do think that it's now a time. I mean, look, you got to join it. You might not love the whole NIL thing and the whole transfer portal and now, Canadian major junior players coming down here, but that's the lay of the land now. It's a professional sport, college sports. And I think that, they're going to have to find somebody running the show at University of Minnesota, whether it's the coach or hiring somebody that's going to run the show as a general manager, because there is no reason why this program shouldn't be as elite as many of the others in the United States.
North Dakota's got one. They have a GM. They hired one.
It's slowly happening. It is slowly happening. And look, I didn't have the greatest relationship with Bob, but I do respect his body of work. I really do. And I would just be careful for people that are saying that he was fired, because I do believe this was very mutual. I really do. I think they both felt like it was time. Yep. And I heard 6 months ago that he was going to retire after this season. He just wanted to coach World Juniors, get through the season, and then retire. That job will be, you will get highly, highly decorated resumes from the entire globe for that job in Minnesota. Roos, you're the best. We've been trying to get you. You're a busy man. Thank you so much for squeezing us in this morning. We love when you come on, and we'll catch up with you soon. All right.
Yep. See you guys. Take care.
Thanks, Roos. Always
Jonny,
the best insight.
The first time we ever told someone we'd get them off at a certain time, and we actually did.
Well, I told him 9:14, so we technically,
went 1 minute late
for an extra minute. But he's the best. He's got another show to do right now. He's one of the busiest guys there is in the NHL, and obviously we admire his work a ton. So super fortunate that Michael Russo is able to hop on with us. A couple other things to get to. I didn't mention we do have Joe Beninati joining us, the play-by-play guy for the Washington Capitals. Obviously, very exciting times for the Caps right now with Cole Hutson's debut last night. I didn't see it live. I watched some of his shifts this morning.
I watched the whole game. Yeah. I watched the entire game. And we could save it for Joe Beninati, but I was just like shaking my head laughing so many times the way that he played last night. I don't think his heart rate went over freaking 75 during the game, and I have no idea how it ended, but I know after the first two periods he had more puck possession time than any player in the game. We'll save it for Beninati.
Yeah.
I have a lot of thoughts about how Cole played last night and how good and comfortable he looked, but we'll save it because I know there's something else that you wanted to get into right before we do that with Beninati.
This whole Jack Hughes golden goal puck being in the Hall of Fame thing, I honestly didn't have an opinion on it. For me, it's all right, it's up to it's Jack's moment, it's Team USA's moment. I get it, it's a big moment in hockey, but I didn't really think that everyone should care as much as we seem to care about where this puck goes. So I figured after TNT talked about it last night, after we spoke to Jack in the scrum after the game last night, I have formed an opinion. But for me, everyone calling him selfish for wanting it just feels a little off. Colby, anyone who's played hockey knows at a high level, the milestone pucks mean something. Players keep them all the time. Big moments, game winners, first goals. They're not just these collectible, tangible, they're reminders of everything it took to get there. And in this case, Jack even said he wanted it for his dad and for his family, which to me adds a whole different layer to it. And you understand how much families and parents put into helping their kids reach this level, and the time, the energy, the financial commitment, the support through everything. It's a shared thing for Jack, his family to have. And I'm saying just the puck, the sticks, the gloves, the helmets, the jerseys, all that stuff belongs in the Hall of Fame. But the puck is the one thing that I feel the player kind of has for.
I'm not sure the jersey does either. By the way, I have a different point of view on this stuff, Jonny, and I think the player involved should get to decide.
But one last thing. I just don't everyone's been saying it's selfish. It's selfish. I don't see selfishness. I see someone wanting to share a meaningful piece of a huge accomplishment with the people who made it possible for him. That's all it is for me. I understand the idea of preserving history and there's value in it, but there are other ways, like we said, Colby, to honor a moment like that with sticks and you know what I mean? But the puck is the one thing for hockey players that always feels more personal.
The other thing that a lot of these big events have, even in the Stanley Cup playoffs, Jonny, you wear different jerseys every round, the
Mhm.
jerseys are marked for the round. Like I have my Bruins jersey. Now, obviously, I only got to put it on the game jersey for when the buzzer sounded on the third period when I, went out on the ice. And I have that one, but it's framed and everything right here next to, and all the guys signed each other's jerseys. Oh, good job, Vic. You can see it. Like all the
Mhm.
players signed each other's jerseys, and then, they're all framed up nicely and everything like that. But, these jerseys are marked a certain way by the companies who make them. And there's no reason why in these big games, Johnny, and I know this does happen, like sometimes, whatever, they'll flip your jersey from game 1 to game 2. They'll give you a different jersey. And that's how they kind of help with these types of collectibles and these types of things. But I truly believe that the players should get to choose
I agree.
if they want it, or if they want it to go into the Hockey Hall of Fame. And maybe it's a situation where it goes into the Hockey Hall of Fame for a couple of years and then you're able to get it back. I mean, I can tell you this. I'll tell you, there's a number of things, Johnny, that I didn't think I cared about that I now wish that I had from my career. Obviously, being a part of some big moments at different levels of hockey, there are definitely, some jerseys that I've actually had to work on tracking down over the years. I'm still working on tracking down my jersey from when we played at Fenway. There's a puck and a stick potentially, floating around out there that I've always kind of wished that I had from one really special moment. So I do believe that, and by the way, my understanding of the situation, Johnny, is that USA Hockey donated the item, and that USA Hockey does donate money to the Hockey Hall of Fame to help with it. And I think all the governing bodies do, the IIHF and everything like that. So, there was conjunction on this. Nobody snuck the puck out the back door and it didn't end up there in some funny type of way. But I do believe the players should be involved. I think if Jack Hughes wants that puck, I think Jack Hughes should have that puck. I think if Sidney Crosby wants that puck, I think Sidney Crosby should have the puck from his golden goal. So I don't mind at all what Jack Hughes said. I think it was the guy John Shannon, who's a writer in Canada. He started whining. It's funny because he was calling he was calling Jack a whiner. He sounded like a whiny little bitch, if you ask me.
I actually agree. I don't really go at people, but I watched that Colby and I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
He sounded like such a whiny little baby.
And Jack learned the game in Canada.
And that's the other thing. He's like, well, he learned to play in Canada, and I'm like, oh, what a typical smug Canadian writer who thinks like, no, Jack Hughes learned to be a good player at the national program. Jack Hughes learned, like, give me a break with that type of shit. Like, oh man, like the Canadian writers, man, they've really been on a roll ever since the Olympics, haven't they? They've really been on a roll with their crybaby takes about every little thing over the last however long it's been. But that clip from John Shannon was like, it's embarrassing for him and for that show to say stupid shit like that, for sure.
And J-Rock just wrote in the chat, like, it's not selfish, but you can't have the puck, so let it go. It shouldn't be this big of a deal. And we weren't talking about it. Like, it happened. We were going to let it go. But, like, I was in Jack's post-game presser last night, and, like, I posted the video of what Jack said, and people went off in the comments of the video, calling him selfish, calling him, like, backtracking, saying he's an idiot, all these things. And I'm like, who the fuck cares this much? Like, it should be it should be his choice. That's it. Like, you know what I mean? I didn't care. I don't care where that puck goes. I'm sure you don't care where that puck goes.
Jack Hughes is going to want to be able to show his kids this stuff one day in his office or his man cave, or if he has a dedicated room for memorabilia or his trophy room or whatever. So I just think that I just think that these guys should have the opportunity to decide. Listen, some guys may look at this and say, you know what, let it go to the Hall of Fame. But I do believe it should be on loan at the Hall of Fame. I don't believe it should be the Hall of Fames. I really don't. I went to the Hockey Hall of Fame as a kid all the time. I vividly remember my dad taking me to the Hockey Hall of Fame. I remember when I went to Roger Nielsen's camp as a kid, they would take us to the Hall of Fame at the end of the week, I believe on Fridays. I've probably been there 50, somewhere between 30 and 50 times in my entire life. So plenty. It's been a while, but I understand the importance of it, the significance of it. I remember being a kid in that simulator where Gretzky shooting pucks out of the screen at you, and Lemieux and whoever else
goalie.
was in that. I remember those types of things, and I can even remember the smell of it. So like, it's an important place for the history of the game. But again, the items in there, in my opinion, they should still belong to the people who are a part of the moments. And again, you want to loan it to the Hockey Hall of Fame. You want to say, yeah, take it for 10 years, no problem. But this whole situation is
I agree.
Ridiculous. And anybody attacking Jack Hughes, again, I just vehemently disagree with you if that's the angle you're taking.
Yeah. Don't think we need to give it any more life, but I figured since everyone's having an opinion on it, we may as well have one too. Again, like, this is not something I had an opinion on 18 hours ago, but I liked hearing the TNT panel kind of talk about it. They all had interesting points about it. But let's get into our next topic. More action around I'm going to read a comment here. Oiler fan, give Jonny all the Olympic gold medal pucks. When his best friends, Sydney and Jack, come over, they can hold the pucks. That's pretty good. Colorado and Dallas last night, another great game. Colby, not sure if you were up to catch the end of it. That game goes into a shootout. Dallas ends up winning it, but we've been talking about it. The Dallas Stars right there with the Colorado Avalanche playing without Mikko Rantanen, and the Dallas Stars, Jake Ottinger, hell of a performance last night. Ottinger, a goalie that we haven't really been talking about a lot this year, but we've had that conversation over the past week, Colby, about how Dallas is right there with Colorado, and we've all been kind of pointing at Colorado as the on-paper Stanley Cup champions this year. And while the Stars did get outplayed a little bit, they come away with the win. Like, the Stars are right there. They're very close to catching Colorado in the standings. Like, they might even have the home ice advantage. They're 3 points back of Colorado right now in that division. So the Dallas Stars, give them credit. We haven't talked about them nearly enough. Also heard that great story of, is it Justin Ritzkovian or Dylan Ritzkovian? I always mix up the two. I think it's Dylan, right? Justin's the one at Northeastern still.
They're just Ritzkovian to me.
Ritzkovian?
I've done their games all through their college years for both of them, but I don't know the first, which I know one of them has been out of Northeastern for a couple of years, and one of them is currently still at Northeastern. So don't ask me the first name.
Justin Ritzkovian. I heard a clip yesterday on Twitter about the picture that was going viral of Ritzkovian pointing at the Oilers bench the other night in Dallas and McDavid's face. And the story was, and Ray Ferraro was in between the benches for it. So when we get Ray on the next time, maybe we can ask him about it. But Ritzkovian was pointing at guys down the Oilers bench saying they didn't want you, they couldn't trade you, all these different chirps. And it was a really funny story that I retweeted yesterday. If people want to go to my Twitter page and find it, but
I'll never forget
the Dallas Stars, man.
I'll never forget the first time I was doing a Northeastern game with Ritzkovian, and I looked at the line chart and I see his last name, and I'm like,
need a pronunciation guide for that one.
That? I'm like, Ricky win or whatever. It definitely took me some practice of just saying it really fast to be able to pronounce his name right on a broadcast.
Yeah, but heck of a player too. Both of them, Dylan a stud, Justin a stud. Obviously, both really good players at Northeastern. Let's lead into some Washington Capitals talk, Colby, because we do have Joe Beninati joining here in about 2 minutes. The Capitals, one of those teams that in a weird spot right now, they sell at the deadline, but they're not out of it. They have a big win last night against Ottawa. You watched that entire game. What was your main takeaway from the Washington Capitals? Because I think we'd both be surprised if you had asked us in October that they'd be in the spot they're in right now.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I thought they'd be a playoff team. I thought they would have won last year. Look, I really wanted to watch that game because I wanted to see how Cole looked. And I wanted to see, could Cole be Cole at this level? And, the other thing that struck me as so interesting, and it sounds like Joe's here, Jonny, so I'll just pause and let you bring Joe on because he's obviously a huge part of this conversation we're about to have.
Okay, so I'll read Joe in with a big shout out from our sponsors, JP Weisers. No matter where your team sits this season, watching the game with your crew makes everything better. The wins feel bigger and the rivalries hit harder. As the official whiskey of the NHL, JP Weisers is all about those moments that matter from October through June, the rituals, the midweek matchups, and the regional rivalries that bring friends together, because when you get the crew together for a game night, that's a W. This season, fans can look forward to limited edition collection products, and plenty more from JP Weisers. To stay up to date, visit jpweisers.com and subscribe to the JP Weisers newsletter for the latest on limited edition drops, products, and more. You must be legal drinking age, so please enjoy responsibly. With that, we'll bring on friend of the show, Joe Beninati. Joe, great to see you this morning after what looked like a very fun night in Washington, D.C. last night.
Guys, that was a whole lot of fun, and I expect that to continue for a good amount of time. The young man arrives with a whole bunch of street cred and then goes out and proves it. And his coach says in the morning, there's going to be room for mistakes. Don't hang your head. Just be you. I don't know if I could find a single mistake last night. He played confidently. I think that's the MO about him. Have a confidence about him. But there were no signs of nervousness. And honestly, guys, when we spoke with him in the dressing room in the morning at the morning skate, he appeared to be nervous as a cat. And he said, in his own words, "I'm super nervous. I can't wait to get into the game and get it over with," quote unquote, get those nerves out of his body. They didn't look like they were there that long.
I got a kick out of, there's so many. I watched the whole game because I Cole's a guy that I've been watching since he was at the national program. And, I laughed at some of the back and forth that you guys had last night about Lane and who's the better passer. And, but I'd say the best kick I got was in the bench interview with Kirk Muller. I really was like laying in bed watching, laughing when Kirk was talking about how confident he looked. And he almost was like in disbelief because I believe it was right after the shift where he comes up on the power play. He kind of weaves his way into the zone. And then he just kind of like stops moving his feet and just lets his hands go to work before he like makes a simple little play, which is not an easy play to make. And you could just hear the excitement and like almost like I don't want to call it disbelief, but that interview with Kirk Muller, a guy who's so well respected, to just be like, yeah, it's clear that this guy is confident.
And Colby, he's the guy who runs the power play, right? That's Kirk's responsibility. And it's no surprise if I were to say, and anybody were to look at the stats, that you guys are talking about the Capitals being on the bubble playoff-wise. Yeah. One of the huge reasons why has been the ineffectiveness of the power play. And you just think, well, if you had Cole Hutson the whole season, would the entries have been that much cleaner? Would you have had that many more opportunities for one-timers from the flanks? And this is no disrespect to an all-time great in John Carlson, but Hutson injected a skating ability last night to that to go along with the likes of a Ryan Leonard or an Ethan Frank. The Caps should be able to get into the zone cleaner now on power plays, and let's see where that goes from there. But this young man, again, as soon as they had him on the ice, they had him with a top power play unit, and there was no hesitation, and there was a complete belief that even at 19, he'd understand how to run it.
I know we're going to have a large Cole Hutson conversation this morning, but Joe, I feel like one guy we have to talk about, and Colby and I have kind of, righted the ship a little bit over the past year or so about Pierre-Luc Dubois, right? Like a couple years ago, I think his reputation, wasn't necessarily the highest. People questioned his character in a locker room, but it's become clear to any hockey fan who's paying attention that since he stepped foot in Washington, D.C., he has become a very well-loved and caring and kind teammate, offering up his home to Ryan Leonard and now Cole Hutson. And for, I've gotten to know him a little bit too over the past year or so. When the Washington Capitals come through MSG, and I cannot speak higher of him as a guy, especially when he talks to me. But I'd love to hear you talk about just the leadership qualities that Pierre-Luc Dubois has kind of garnered over the past year or so in DC.
I'll start with Spencer Carberry. There was immediate get-along with Pierre-Luc Dubois and Spencer Carberry. Spencer challenged him right from the get-go. Pierre-Luc is the son of a coach. And everything that Carberry was singing to Pierre-Luc met very well with his ears. And right off the bat, from a responsibility standpoint, Spencer was quick to say, "Hey, Pierre-Luc, do you want McDavid tonight? Do you want McKinnon tonight? Do you want Suzuki tonight? I'll give you that matchup." And I think Pierre-Luc just puffed out his chest and said, "Hey, they want that from me. I can deliver that. I can be a really good two-way guy." And I'm more impressed with Pierre-Luc Dubois this year than ever, considering what he's had to go through. Mm-hmm. It's not easy to go through a major in-season surgery. I want to say he missed close to 47 games combined with the injury, and he is a vital cog both offensively and defensively for this team. Leadership-wise, yes, people do gravitate towards him. A lot of these young guys realize that he played very young in the NHL when he first started with the Columbus Blue Jackets. He has a great mind for the game. He's someone that you love to sit down with in the dressing room just to pick his brain about certain situations. And I know we've all heard the supposed reputation that he garnered, that he developed through his first few years in the league. I swear to you, haven't seen any of that in Washington. It's been a total buy-in. And when he's been on the ice, he's been productive and he's been putting in the work.
Yeah, look, I think I was pretty harsh on him at times, and I've been the first one to really just appreciate what he's done in Washington and what he's brought. And again, like Johnny said, the human side of it, how important that is. Cole Hutson right out of the hotel right away. Like, that makes you feel so comfortable. Just to know guys are excited to have you there and welcoming. I mean, that springboards you into success.
Without question, it had helped Ryan Leonard, and Leonard obviously was somebody that was in Cole Hutson's ear in the time frame leading up to his NHL debut last night. He and Cole are good friends from their rivalry with BUBC, from their time together with the World Junior program. Obviously, they were well connected, and Ryan speaks so highly of Pierre-Luc, so it doesn't surprise me at all to see the Dubois family treat Cole extremely well. You watched the whole telecast last night. Dubois and Hutson actually sampled Gold songs for what they were actually going to choose. And I think Cole chose a beauty. And for him to get that chance, he didn't want that goal. I know for a fact these guys don't want their first NHL goals or any really big major milestone goals to be empty netters, but it was there. Connor McMichael said, "You go and take it," which was wonderful.
Shoot it.
Yeah,
shoot
no,
it.
just don't look at me. Cole wanted the assist. And I know where he was coming from, but it was great to have mom and dad in the crowd last night. The cutaway shots were awesome. A whole bunch of fun for us on Monumental Sports Network.
Joe, I got a text from Shaddy, and he goes, "Did Cole just look off Ovi for an empty net goal?"
That was my first thought too.
It's literally it was the text that I got. He goes, "Oh my God, he looked off Ovi for an empty netter." And I was like, no, you got to watch. They showed a replay. He was pointing to obviously that's his parents, Rob and Julie, and man, 3 kids in the NHL this year. And Joe, like, you watch this young man play last night, and I was texting with Lane after the game, and Lane is such they're so different. They really are. They're so different, those two. And Lane will be the first one to tell you, and I would agree with this. Like, Cole, not many players in the National Hockey League fully control their own destiny. There's only so much you can control as a player. But then there's this small percentage of guys that are just so damn talented that if they want to be great and if they want to be the best, it's fully up to them. I'd say it's a very rare small window of guys where, like, I say Lane Hutson is like a magician. Cole Hutson is like an assassin, and Lane will tell you Cole has more raw ability and has a higher ceiling. And it's hard to say that for a guy who, as you guys pointed out on the telecast last night, Lane has led the Canadians in assists for the last 2 years and been all-world type of player in the National Hockey League. But I would agree. Cole's destiny is in Cole's hands. His ability is scary good.
First time I saw him in development camp, yes, you notice how slight they are, and there's probably not 175 pounds of hockey player there, but what is there is electric. And everything last night was going forward. I don't know if he backskated at all last night. He was all going. I honestly said in our postgame show, and I'm not pleased, Joe just said he's Quinn Hughes. I didn't say that. I said he reminds me, his stride, that first stride forward is very much like Quinn Hughes. I don't know if he has the ankle breaking ability, the escapability of Quinn Hughes, not yet, but he's trending in that direction. And at this age, it's remarkable. And he does have the mindset. You can see the self-confidence. The belief is going to be there. And yeah, there are going to be some growing pains. Not every night is going to go as smoothly as last night. But when you get that in your first maiden voyage, you do feel like, you know what? Let's see where he can go. He might be able to control all that destiny that you're talking about. And at the same time, be a vital figure in Washington moving forward in the post-Ovechkin era.
And one thing I can't wait to see when he finally is comfortable, because he said last night, I think in the post game, like he was never really feeling super comfortable throughout the game, right? Like he was on edge the whole game.
Could have fooled us.
But he is a guy, and just like Alexander Ovechkin, who loves to celebrate when they score. And last night, obviously, an empty net goal, you're up by 2. You're not going to see a flashy, crazy celly for a first NHL goal. But Cole Hutson, once Ovi spends a lot of time with him, the celebrations he's going to have when he scores some goals in Washington, D.C., I mean, he is one of the best at it in college hockey. So for the fans that have loved Alexander Ovechkin's goal celebrations, I think they're going to see it a lot when you get Cole Hutson scoring goals that are on a goaltender.
Jonny and Colby, I was working with our producer a couple of days in advance of Cole's debut, and he sends me this sizzle reel of all Cole Hutson stuff from Boston University. Not really much. I don't think there was much from the World Junior team, but it was all BU stuff. And it was very glitzy and glam, and it was nicely done. And we were working on a tease on a package for Cole for his debut game. And I'm sitting there going, wow, this kid really does know how to celebrate, how to puff it out. And the goals that he scores in college are remarkable. And in his words, I believe he said, Lane is shiftier, I'm smoother. That's what Cole said in comparison. I wanted them to compare to his defensive brother, Lane Hutson, NHL Rookie of the Year. It's not like you think you have a little bit of pressure on you. Hey, what'd your brother do? Yeah, he was the NHL Rookie of the Year. Where does he play? Montreal. Oh, by the way, big market, big hockey market. But this young man seems like he's more than ready to face the pressure. Spencer Carberry told us he thought it would be interesting to watch against an Ottawa team with great speed, known for its forecheck pressure, how a 19-year-old defenseman would handle that. I don't think he was bothered at all by it, and I don't remember a single time where he got hit. And that's the same thing I say about Lane. I went to Tom Wilson during the playoffs when the Caps played Montreal a couple seasons back. It was last season, in fact.
Last year, yeah.
And I said, how hard is he to hit? Joe, I can't get him. I line him up. I think I have him. I can't get him. And that's the kind of shifty shake ability I think they both have.
Yeah. And you could just see, like, watching the game, the first period, he was scanning. He was looking around a lot. He was kind of figuring out how much can I cheat up the ice with making sure I have the speed in my back pocket to defend. And then as the game went along, you just started to see more and more of who he is. He makes that play in the third period where he throws that little head fake, gets around the net, almost beats the goaltender short side. He comes up on the power play, wide track Pontiac, as Jack Parker used to say. Like, he's not even moving his feet. He's just weaving his way in like Kucherov does, honestly. I mean, you could just start to see it, Joe. And I was really just enjoying, as you and Locker were kind of talking about some of these little things that he was getting into. By the way, great trivia question. I don't know how I'm like, Tom, who's the other one? Tom Pody obviously was.
What was the question?
I'll let Joe.
Cole is the third BU defenseman to play for Washington. Can you name the other two?
Oh man. Well, you just gave away Tom. You gave away Tom Pody.
You heard Pody. The other one has a funny name.
Yeah.
Oh man. We might spend another 5 minutes on the show.
Yeah, he's been on our show. Johnny knows this guy pretty well.
Oh, Shaddy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Shaddy.
As soon as I saw the question, I came up with all the BU forwards. I'm like, a lot of good this is going to do me.
Yeah.
We're looking for defensemen here. Yeah, Shattenkirk and Pody. But for Colby, you would have heard an entirely different goal call from me had that wrap around the cage one went in short side. That's the kind of first goal you want.
But you said he'd get it.
Take every single empty netter you can get, Cole. But I think this is a player who's going to treat us to a lot of highlight reel stuff. And I really was. I knew that he'd do well. I didn't know that he would do that well and make that kind of an impression right off the bat. He was really, really strong.
Yeah, and you guys said on the broadcast that he scored his first college game, and you wouldn't be surprised if he got one in his first NHL game. And so you guys set the table for him, which was nice. It was really nice. There's another guy that I wanted to talk about, and Jonny is pretty good about talking about how important the Hershey Bears system has been to the Washington Capitals over the years and how well the organization has kind of flown under the radar for not only having really good American League teams, but developing players that are now impact players in the NHL. And Ethan Frank is a name that comes to mind because I remember calling this guy's games at Western. I remember Pat Ferschweiler on Twitter being like, this guy should be in the NHL. And as I'm watching last night and I'm watching that power play, Frank, I'm pretty sure makes a play where a puck comes around the wall and he takes it off the wall and all in one puts it between his legs out to the slot. And then they try to hit Ovi on the back door. I don't know who tried to make the second pass, but I'm sitting here and I'm going, God, isn't Ethan Frank a great story? 4-year college player, actually 5-year college player, gets an American League opportunity, gets no sniffs for the first 3 years after scoring 30 and 30 almost. 30 and I think it was 28 or something in the American League. And now this is a guy who looks to be a contributor at the National Hockey League level. And I'm curious with Frank, like, what do you think his ceiling is, and how important do you think that development time was for him with Hershey in the American League?
Shoots it really well, Colby. Skates incredibly well. I mean, he's lightning fast. I believe he's got a little roller hockey in his background. He can flat out fly, straight ahead line skating. He's fantastic with it. I think the first few years that I watched Ethan at the development level, whether it be American Hockey League or in small tastes at the NHL level, it almost looked like the puck slowed him down a little bit. He wasn't necessarily at top speed with the puck, a la Connor McDavid. Right. But in this season, as he's become more confident, as his playing time has improved, I don't notice him dragging the puck. I notice him moving it forward and keeping his pace and his speed and really challenging NHL defensemen wide. I'm thrilled that he earned a 2-year contract from the organization. The teammates love him. The coaches love him. He's got a great attitude for the game. And the more you see him getting opportunities now on the power play with that speed on the entry, I think the more his hands catch up to his legs. He's always had phenomenal skating legs. He had 3 chances in the first period to score last night, and there were some bobbles or shots that went wide. I think he's going to relax more as this goes along, as he gets to play on higher lines. And I wouldn't be surprised. You ask for a ceiling, he can be a 20, 25 goal guy in this league. Speed, he really can.
And I was just looking it up as you guys were talking. I wanted to know how many guys in the current lineup for Washington had spent time with the Hershey Bears. It's hard to find the exact number. Maybe, Joe, that's homework for the next broadcast. But it did say around 8 to 12. Not sure how accurate that might be. But Protas, McMichael, Mallenstein, Leonard, Ferravari, Sandin. I think those are a few names that maybe have spent time in Hershey. But that's something obviously that –
Hershey? When did Leonard? Oh,
did he not?
Leonard spent time in Hershey?
Did he not?
No, Leonard's never been there yet.
Yeah,
Leonard came up, he'll stay there. But look, I got the point. I think it's great that you referenced the American Hockey League Hershey Bears. They are multiple-time, I want to say 13-time Calder Cup champions. And a lot of those teams that win the Calder in the American League are dominated by veteran talents. That's not necessarily the case in Hershey. They do have young kids there. And I just think back when you say how the organizations help the Caps, I immediately think back to the likes of Braden Holtby, Semyon Varlamov, Michael Neuwirth, all goalies who play in the American Hockey League, John Carlson, Carl Alsner, all defensemen who cut their teeth in the American Hockey League, on and on and on. So many of those guys developed in the American League and won championships there. That had a lot of help. Jay Beagle, a lot of the guys on the 18 Stanley Cup winner, you could easily see the Hershey connection there. So that's a good point made by you two.
Well, I'll hand up. I got AI. The chat's calling me out because I looked it up and it was one of those Google overview things. It's not always super accurate. It's the AI telling me the name. So hand up. I got AI during the show. But yes, that is a point we definitely wanted to make. But we did kind of start this conversation, Joe, talking about where the Caps are, in the standings. They're 6 points back right now, the playoffs. They traded away John Carlson, and you saw all the interviews after the trade deadline of how shaken up the locker room was from losing a guy like John Carlson. But is the belief still there? Because they're a 2-3 game winning streak away from being right back in contention. I mean, they are in contention. 6 points is not that much room to have to make up for with 13 games left, I believe. Like, what is the vibe right now as far as playoffs go in their locker room?
I'm glad you said it because most people think I'm crazy, but it depends on how you look at it. You sit there and say, okay, to me, the best chance for Washington to get into the playoffs is to not focus on the wild card. It's to focus on getting to second or third in the Metro. I think that's going to be the path for them. But, Joe, to get there, you're going to have to go, 12-2 down the stretch? And there's been nothing of late. The Caps have been playing .500 hockey. There's been nothing of late that leads you to believe they're going to rip off 7-8 wins in a row. But is it doable? Yes. Is the schedule favorable? Not really, because they spend a lot of time on the road, and they've had difficulties winning on the road this season. I want to say they have the worst road record in the Metro. They have the second best home record in the Metro, only to Carolina. They've done incredibly well against the Metro division. Team they beat last night, Ottawa, it's the Atlantic Division that's really submarine Washington this season. Do I think they can get there? Yes. Do they think they can get there? Yes. There's that belief is still there. And a couple seasons ago, Spencer Carberry's first year behind the bench, the Caps actually traded away at the deadline and still made the playoffs. So there's experience. There's a track record there of, hey, let's see how we can sort of tread water here, thread the needle and trade guys away where we can get assets, draft assets for the future, and at the same time, keep the team thinking it's a possibility. Mathematically, I know it's slight. I know that the odds makers, percentage-wise, will say it's very, very low for Washington. I still think it's there. It's just a matter of, like you said, can they rip off 3 or 4 in a row? They don't have those 2 losses to Boston are killing me. But even though, as I said, don't focus on the wild card, those 2 losses to Boston straight up, that hurt with respect to your wild card chase. I still think, though, you can catch an Islander or a Pittsburgh team for positioning in the Metro.
Yeah, and if they don't make the playoffs, Joe, we're going to get an opportunity to see what is going to be the new iteration of this team. Obviously, Chris Patrick is the general manager now. I think a lot of people kind of forget that outside of Washington, and we all still think about, McClellan, and obviously those guys have worked hand in hand together for so long. But in theory, the Caps have right now $10 million in cap space. That's not in theory, that's reality. And then Ovechkin's $9.5 million comes off the books, and you look at their situation, like they have a couple of UFAs. They have one RFA with McMichael, who's a guy who they're obviously going to want to keep. But I don't think there's anybody due for some massive, massive payday. So there is going to be opportunities for Chris to get out into the market and kind of reshape this team in his view. How does he see fit? And I'm curious from your standpoint, are they going to go in this summer and spend all their cap money? Do you see them sort of slow playing this a little bit and realizing, okay, we just lost the greatest goal scorer of all time in the history of this game? When I say lost, they're not losing him, but you know what I mean by that. How do we sort of change now to the next page? And I'm curious, what are your expectations or viewpoints on the direction that they may look to go within the offseason?
Great question. And first off, and I'm not trying to be a smartass.
No, correct me.
Has Ovechkin told you that he's not coming back?
No.
He hasn't told me
hasn't.
that.
No, he has not. You know who keeps telling me that? I'm throwing him under the bus. Jeff Merrick keeps telling me he's not coming back. If you're listening, it's your fault that Joe is telling me that I'm wrong on this one. So blame Jeff.
The odds are that Jeff is exactly right. I get the impression that this is Alex's final year, but he hasn't made it public yet. And I think time will tell. Alex will tell. And I think you guys are both right, but I hadn't heard it so conclusively as you just put it. Yes, if Alex is not in the picture, there's a lot of money to be spent. And slow play, no, that's not Ted Leoncis's motive as an owner in Washington. Brian McClellan is still in the picture working with Chris in that sense from a president's level. they would spend, and it's been Chris Patrick's intention, I think, for the last 6 weeks, 8 weeks leading into the trade deadline. He's been saying top 6 forward, goal scoring forward. So once they do get to free agency, that's going to be the area in which they look to spend some money. I don't think they'll hold anything back in reserve. If Alex chooses to play one more season because he likes what's in the pipeline for Washington, I really do think he likes the fact that Cole Hutson's going to be around. Alexei Protas's brother Ilya is going to be around. Lyndon Lakovic, if the injuries heal, is another future 30, 40 goal scorer. I think Alex likes the future. I just don't know if this is it for him. If he's going to step away, then we are truly turning the page after a legendary career. If there's that kind of money to spend, Colby, they're going to spend it. I don't think they'll hold anything in reserve.
Yeah, good.
Joe, I have one kind of like off-topic question. Not necessarily off-topic, but I was sent this clip yesterday. I think it might have been like a Barstool Sports clip or something, but the question was, name a sports city that has at least 3 of the 4 major sports, MLB, NFL, NBA, NHL, where the hockey team is at least in the top 2 in popularity. And I thought Washington, D.C. was one of those cities. I think the point they were trying to make is, as popular as hockey is, if you look around all these major sports cities in the U.S., it is not typically a top 2 popular sport in that specific city because the NFL, MLB, NBA dominate it. But would you agree that in D.C., the Caps are probably, if not 1, at least 2?
The Commanders overall still, regardless of how they do on the field, the Commanders are the number 1 here. Washington Capitals, I would say, are the 2 here now. Nats would be 3, Wizards would be 4 in that rotation. Washington and Pittsburgh come to mind right away.
Yeah.
I do believe the Penguins sit with the Steelers ahead of the Pirates. We're talking about 3 of the major sports, right, in that city? Mm-hmm. So those teams, those 2 cities come to mind right away. Johnny, I think that's fair. When the Nats won the World Series the year after the Caps won the Stanley Cup, it was pretty darn close. Yeah. Since that time, the Nats have really fallen through the floor. And I know that they have a good plan, and they're going to try and make their way back up the ladder. But in the meantime, the Commanders have always been, and I've been here since 1994, the Commanders, and albeit Redskins, have always been the number 1 here, and it's not close. But the Caps have taken that number 2 mantle for sure.
Well, I feel like, we talk about youth hockey all the time, a lot on this show, and like where the hockey hotbeds are. And DC is not one that gets brought up a lot. But like, I know there's so many kids that play in Virginia that play for the Little Caps, I don't know if it's Kettler anymore, but I remember, going up in the AYHL, playing against the Little Caps. That was always fun. Sordif is a local kid, right? I think he grew up in the area. Is Frank not a local kid too?
DC. I'm not sure that he grew up in the area, but another player who they really think highly of and who has made a nice first step and has been, they were very focused upon him pro scout wise when he was with Florida. Obviously the Panthers were a deep organization. Justin never got a chance there, plus some injuries curtailed him with them. But he's very much in the picture here in the future. I call all of that, Johnny, that's the Ovechkin effect. Yeah. To be perfectly honest, since Alex arrived in 05-06, not that hockey wasn't important in the marketplace, but boys, girls, high school hockey, boys and girls, a lot more players now are getting opportunities at the collegiate level that are coming from the DMV area, DC, Maryland, and Virginia, without a question.
I'm wrong about Sordif, so I'm 0 for 2 today on my facts. But he's from British Columbia, but I think grew up a Caps fan, so I made that mistake. So, damn, tough day.
Always
for me.
Had the Ovechkin jersey on. Kid.
Yeah,
I think he's from Victoria, one of the most beautiful places on earth.
Don't worry, Johnny. We're always happy to give you a minus. And
no more fact checking for me today.
Best moment of my personal hockey life and journey took place in Washington, D.C. in that building when we won the national championship in 2009. So I got a big warm spot in my heart for D.C. I'm pretty sure the Frozen Four is in Vegas this year. It's either in D.C. next year or the year after. I know D.C. is one of the next 2. I know it's Chicago and D.C. I'm not sure if the order is DC then Chicago or Chicago then DC, but I have told my bosses at ESPN, please don't fire me or replace me until the DC one is done. After that, hey, I get it. I'm fair game. You've got all these great former players now like Oshie and Eric Johnson. They're all coming back, and now they're all broadcasting. So I'm sure my seat is going to get hot pretty quick, Joe. But I do hope I get to make it through the DC one because of the great memory that I had in that building. And obviously, we talked about Shattenkirk earlier. He passed me that puck. So he's a hell of a part of that moment as well. But I'll always have a big warm spot in my heart. And we celebrated at a bar called Sign of the Whale, which was just some bar. Yeah, just some bar near the hotel. I don't know how we picked that one or ended up there, but boy, that was a fun night.
That's a great memory there. And despite, 35 years of pro hockey for me now, I love the opportunity to call college games. I'm envious of what you and Bucci get to do with regard to the Frozen Four and all. And I had heard that it's coming to Capital One Arena. I'm sure they'll put a great face on it for you guys. And as this season unfolds, I was looking, I do some work on the Big Ten Network in lacrosse, and I know Michigan and Michigan State were way up high in the rankings this year. So I'm curious to see how that'll play out for them over the next few weeks. But college hockey has always been a love for me.
It is, by the way, it is April 8th and 10th next year, 2027, Capital One Arena in DC, and they will do a great job. It was sold out when we were there in 2009. I'm sure it'll be sold out next year. And Joe, I will be very, very surprised if Michigan and Michigan State are not playing in the Frozen Four this year. They are two teams that have been good from the first weekend of the season. Maybe Michigan has a slight edge because they've played better as of late. But those two teams, to me, have just been a cut above, and maybe throw North Dakota in there with Western Michigan and Denver kind of nipping at their heels. But those three programs have, in my opinion, just sort of been the best three teams from wire to wire. And I think when you do that, you have a lot of confidence going into the one and done format of the NCAA tournament.
That Michigan athletic program is pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
Hockey, football, basketball, they do it all.
I think they're going to win the national championship. I mean, not that that's a crazy take by any chance.
You mean in basketball or hockey, Johnny?
Both.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Both.
I think they're going to win. I mean, listen, they're going to.
Not that I know a thing about college basketball, but
they're going to have to beat themselves in hockey, Joe. They are, they've got it going there. They've got a lot of really good players. And I know there's some teams that are hoping maybe they lose sooner than later because they want to see them playing for them in the National Hockey League. But Joe, thanks so much for coming on today. Enjoy your time with Cole. I love the kid. I'm rooting for him. His family has been great. His parents have been, listen, his dad, one of a kind. I hope you get a chance to talk to him soon because Rob is one of a kind, unapologetically himself. And he's helped put three boys in the National Hockey League, Rob and Julie. And I got to tell you, you could say whatever you want about a person. When you see three kids in the National Hockey League, all within the span of 24 months, the parents did something right. And I will die on that hill every day.
Guys, do you know how old is Lars? There's a fourth brother, right?
He's in the USHL with Muskegon. Oh. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing.
Yep. He'll be on his way up sooner than later.
Don't sleep on Lars. He's going to surprise people. Don't sleep on Lars either. So we'll see what happens with him.
Hopefully none of them are asked. Sorry.
I know the Caps were interested in the other one that's with Edmonton. I know they were trying to sign as a free agent.
Yep. And he might be a free agent. Or maybe he just signed an extension. I can't remember.
I think he signed. Quinn signed, I think.
He might have signed an extension. But he'll play in the league, Joe. He's a smart player. He's not quite Cole or Quinn or Lane, but he can play. He belongs, and he'll find his footing in the NHL. I would not bet against Quinn either. So seriously, try to if Rob and Julie are going to come around and watch some of these next couple of games, if you get 5 minutes to just chat with him, Joe, again, he's one of a kind, and I say that in a good way. I really do. I say it in a good way.
I love it. I look forward to it, guys. Thanks. I appreciate the time today.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate you. Colby, hopefully at a media day, Quinn Cole, Lane, Lars aren't asked if they want to play with their brothers in the future in the NHL, and it causes some sort of backlash around all the NHL organizations. Joe Beninati is the best. What an awesome interview he is every time he comes on here.
Just because I like hearing his voice, I feel like we could just like I'd want to keep him on longer just because you like hearing his voice. It's like he's just we've also heard him calling hockey for so many years, right? So you get him in a setting where you're having a conversation with him. I would say this. I'd say the Washington Capitals have the most unique sound in the NHL when it comes to their broadcast. You think of Joe and then Craig. And the uniqueness of their sound,
simply sensational, right? That's
they
like
have such a unique sound between the two of them, and it is I'm pretty sure they get ranked in the top 5 broadcasts every year. I mean, people generally love what they're doing at Monumental Sports, and I think Jeff, our teammate Jeff Marek does some stuff and does some hits for them in their pre-games and their post-game shows and their intermission shows. So Jeff does some work down there with Monumental too as well. So they do a great job. They really do. They do a good job on their network. One of the best regionals far and above the others.
I'll shout out my friend Alexa Lannistoy. She's the host, and TJ Oshie's done a lot now. He's been there. They got a good thing going in Washington, D.C. Anything else you want to get to today? Like any other trending topics that we haven't really hit on? Obviously, it was great to see Sidney Crosby return last night and score that goal in what looked like a crazy game. I didn't get to see much of it. Again, I was at MSG last night for Rangers Devils. So you're kind of just checking box scores, watching clips on Twitter and all those things. When I'm at a game, it's hard to, watch so many games at one time. But that Pittsburgh and Carolina game, seemed like a wild one. And I saw Bucci, I think, tweet, Dan Muse Coach of the Year. We heard Pierre Laviolette on Tri-State the other day praise Dan Muse and how good he's been. And I know there are talks about John Cooper, but it's hard to ignore what Dan Muse has done in Pittsburgh too.
Well, for a team we all picked to finish last.
Yeah, I'd love to get Bonino back on here if we can. I know we had him in the summer.
Yeah, but listen, right now with the push, I'm not asking him. I'm just not going to do it. And I'll tell you why. He probably would just say yes, even though he wouldn't want to, he doesn't want to do it right now. And I don't want to put him in that situation. We'll bring Nick on in the offseason for an episode, or when they lose, or, maybe they don't lose, but when they're out, we'll ask Nick to come back on and do the show, because he's listen, if I know anything about him, he is so dialed on coaching right now, and when he's not, he's giving everything to his family and his girls and his little guy as well. So I don't want to put him in the situation where he feels guilty and he says yes when he just doesn't really feel like doing it. So I know you keep asking me to ask him, but I just love that guy. I'm just going to respect it and wait till the season is over for the Penguins.
Fair enough. Any final thoughts before we go into our Bet365 parlay of the night? A little bit different on Thursdays. You got something?
No? I didn't watch Pittsburgh Carolina because I was watching the other one. You were at MSG. I had my eye on the Flyer game. I saw that little dust up with the defenseman, the Russian defenseman, and Michkov, and I saw Biz tweeting it just to stir the pot, because Michkov listen, I don't you don't want I don't care what happens if you're a Flyers fan, you want Michkov's gloves to stay on his hands. You don't want his gloves touching the ice. I don't care what the circumstance is. You want to throw a jab, you want to hack and whack, no problem, but you want Michkov's gloves on his hands and playing, and not getting involved in some extracurriculars. And he does assist on the game-winning goal in overtime as well. So the noise seemingly has been a little quieter with him. I haven't heard as much noise coming out
from the games I've watched. He's been pretty good since break.
Yeah, he's playing a lot better.
Yeah,
he's definitely playing a lot better. I think his minutes are up a little bit. He's maybe playing 14 to 16 minutes now instead of 12 or 13 minutes. But I haven't watched the Flyers as much of late, so I don't want to go off social media narratives. I'll definitely want to dial into a Flyers game here over the next week or two, because look, they're another team that's not going away. They're 6 points out of the wild card, but again, they've got a winning record in their last 10, albeit 5-4-1. So you've got points in 6 of your last 10. They're on the West Coast right now. They beat Anaheim, which is a good team. Super important point to get. And that got them 1 point closer to Ottawa because Ottawa doesn't get points last night, even though they're 6-2-2 in their last 10. So listen, the Flyers, like Washington, are not they're not quitting. They're going to keep pushing and they're going to need help and they're going to need luck. But unfortunately, I feel like they're going to end up in another situation if you're a Flyers where you just missed the playoffs, so you're not in the lottery and you're not in the playoffs. So it's kind of the tell all, the same story in Philly, Johnny. So
you're picking like 10 to 12 probably in the draft in the first round.
Yeah. And there's a lot of talented guys in that draft, but you could hopefully find somebody in that range where to make everyone happy. So all right, if you want to go to bet now, go to bet.
I'll tell you what, I think the Columbus Blue Jackets are going to be above that line tomorrow morning. They play the Rangers tonight on the second leg of a back-to-back. The Red Wings are playing home against the Canadiens. That's going to be a great game to watch. I'm excited to watch that one. And then the Winnipeg Jets are in Boston taking on the Bruins. The Jets are playing pretty well too. So if I'm picking one team that I think is going to win tonight, it's probably the Columbus Blue Jackets for sure. So a lot of good hockey, 11 games, but our Bet 365 Morning Cuppa parlay, the Metro Moneyline parlay, we're calling it. We're taking the Columbus Blue Jackets on the money line at home against the Rangers and the Islanders on the money line on the road against Ottawa. Both opponents, the Rangers and the Senators, played last night. So we're kind of fading the team that's playing on the second leg of a back-to-back. And that's going to be the play for tonight. Lots of great hockey to watch tonight. Like I said, 11 games. So this is a great night to get glued to the couch. Great night to order in some good food. Great night to maybe pour yourself a glass of wine, hang out, relax, and watch hockey all night. Colby, any final thoughts before we wrap up the show for the week?
Do you have any big birthday plans this weekend?
I'm actually playing in a charity event for breast cancer all day Saturday, which is going to be a lot of fun. 8 a.m. to like 5 p.m. Some former NHL guys will be there. Bernie Nichols was actually there last year or 2 years ago, which is really cool, playing pond hockey against him. And then Sunday, the Rangers play, I think, Winnipeg, so I'll be at that game. My birthday is Sunday. And then I'll go home. It's actually kind of cool. It's my mom's 60th also. So I was born on my mom's 30th birthday. So we have like a combined 30-60 party happening actually next weekend with like a bunch of family and friends. This weekend, I was just too busy with stuff going on. And you know how it is, Colby, right? Like in our industry, we don't take off for birthdays or anything. You kind of got to miss stuff. And I've rescheduled my birthday a week. Yeah.
My daughter turns 3 this weekend on Saturday. And Sunday, I'm going to miss her birthday party because I will be at the NCAA selection show. I got to go up to Bristol on Sunday and do the selection show. So I won't even get to go to the birthday party. I'll be there for the birthday, but I won't get to go to the birthday party. My wife said it was like, it's a very girly, like princess party. So she said it was okay that I was going to miss it. So
would you dress up if she asked? Would you dress up? No.
No.
You're like Herb Brooks? Herb Brooks in the movie? Like when Patty has the costume for him to wear and he's like, I'm not wearing that.
Yeah. There are times where we're in the playroom and she wants me to put on like something. And I just, unfortunately, I'm not, I tell her, here, let's grab our hockey sticks and let's play hockey. I mean, the knee hockey right now in our playroom between my daughter and my son is pretty popular, which makes me very, very happy. So, but no, I'm
Lots
not.
Lots of cute videos.
When she asked me to wear like a crown, like the princess's crown, I tell her, like, ask your mother. That's for a girl, not for me.
I would do it. I would do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you probably do it anyway. So
I had an older sister growing up, and we always played that pretty princess game. And yeah, there's definitely a lot of pictures of me younger in a dress and stuff like that I'm sure you'd love to get your hands on as blackmail. And so would our chat. I imagine everyone blackmails me on Twitter with like the picture of me in the Islanders jersey. I don't want that going viral. But
I think everybody would believe it. That would be the thing. Everybody would believe it.
It's real.
So.
It's a real photo.
Well, I know, but I just think everyone would go, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's true. Can't beat the allegations. Morning Cup Hockey Parlay, Islanders money line, Blue Jackets money line. Reminder, there are a few things more stressful than a close hockey game. One late back check could make all the difference between a chance at playoff glory or an early spring tea time. That's why Bet365, an official partner of the NHL, is offering 3-goal early payout. If the team you're riding goes up 3 goals at any point in the game, they'll pay your bet out early. Hockey fans have enough things to stress about with 3-goal early payout. Now your bets don't have to be one of them. So Bet365, download the app today. You must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. Colby, all you.
All right, last show of the week. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the Daily Faceoff's YouTube channel. Go to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Put on automatic audio downloads only. Make sure you leave us a review on the audio platforms. Give us a rating. Leave us a review. Obviously, if it's a bad one, we'll just delete it. Don't worry. Just kidding. After today's show, feel free to go to the stream, leave us your comments, tell us what you liked, what you didn't like, what you agreed with, what you didn't agree with. We always love to hear from you guys, especially when we have the long weekend ahead. No show tomorrow, obviously. We will get back to our Friday shows starting in the playoffs, which isn't all that far away. Jonny and I have been talking about doing some shows together while we're both in Vegas for the Frozen Four, so we are working on that, which could be fun to be in the same room. Instead of giving Jonny dirty looks, I could actually swing at him during a show and make contact, which I think would be fun for everyone. And so with that, we hope everybody has a nice Thursday. You know the lineup on the Daily Faceoff and what we have ahead. You'll have that today. You'll have that tomorrow. We will be right back with you on Monday, as we always are, at 9 a.m. And we hope Jonny has a great 30th birthday. And we hope
Happy birthday to Sloan, too.
Has a great weekend. We'll see you all Monday at 9 a.m.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to Morning Cuppa Hockey here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. And don't forget, we've got more great hockey content every day. You can catch DFO live at noon and stick around for the Sheet with Jeff Marek at 1 p.m. right here on Daily Faceoff. Until then, keep your coffee hot and your takes hotter.